Good morning. It's Millennials and Money. I'm Kelsey McDaniel.
Good morning. I'm Chris Zender.
And today we are going to talk about more specifically what the process actually is in order to be successful at sales. Last week we discussed process kind of in a vague way, but we told you guys at the end of the episode that everything that we've learned has come from Bill Woodich, and that's why we're really excited to launch this course that's coming up at the end of the month. But today, we figured we might as well tell you
first
some of
off,
the
I
steps.
can't say everything I've learned comes from Bill Woodich. Here's how I'm going to put it. Bill Woodich gave me a process and a platform, and then I went out and did what he said, and I learned from doing what he said. He taught me stuff.
Okay.
I went out
That's
and
a better
did
way
it,
to put it.
and then I learned, and then he gave me feedback. And so it was kind of like a thermostat where you go out, you start getting too hot or too cold, and then you get back to right on line.
Well, and that's part of why this platform that he's built is so successful, is he teaches you how to have your own authentic sales voice. So 100% it's Chris Zender, but
it's me, all right.
they're not getting anyone
Good
else.
morning.
But
yeah,
through Phil's mentorship, that's
he just gave me an outline of what to do.
Well, let's talk about that outline.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to do a lot of work. There's no way to go around it. You got to do all the heavy lifting. But if you can feel reasonably assured that if you have the right outline and the right plan in place and the right process, that you'll get the results after you put in the activity. But you've got to put in, a year, 2 years, 3 years of work, consistent and steady and targeted correctly with a process that actually works or has been proven to work. So you have to go out there and start grinding, and you're going to learn so much from your first, let's say 10,000 calls, because that's kind of what it takes. Your first 10,000 calls, which could take, if I'm doing the calculations correctly, a couple of years. You're gonna have like a master's degree in business, because you understand, you've heard everything, or you think you've heard everything.
As far as rejections?
Yeah, just dealing with business people and CEOs, and you're gonna understand like incentives and motivations a whole lot better than you would just reading about it or hearing about it.
Right.
There's no better teaching tool than experience. But if you're just going out and you don't have a plan or a process in place, it's going to be a waste of time, or you're not going to get the results you want as fast as you could by using a proven process.
And we've talked about your process before with
Bill's modified Bill's process.
But
it's Bill's process modified to fit my personality.
The thing that I like about it, though, is you research while the phone is ringing.
Yes.
And that is, I'm still blown away by that.
I actually took some computer equipment home so I can, do it at home now. Mm-hmm. A little bit, so I can, because it was getting a little burdensome trying to pull all these different info pieces.
Right.
So to have, the basic thing down already, so that when I get to it, I can just go online real quick while the phone's ringing and pull, current information, just a quick update.
Okay, so when you are making these calls, you make about 150.
Well, here's the caveat. I'm really busy right now, so I don't have a whole lot of time, as much time as I should, to make phone calls.
You're busy, why?
Because I have clients.
Yeah.
And they're high maintenance. And so...
Don't show them this episode.
Yeah, well, they're cool with it. They know.
They know that they're high maintenance.
But I'm trying to fix that operationally. We hired some new people, but that's neither here nor there. The point is to keep me on the phones and with current clients, keeping current clients, getting new clients. But it's getting really busy, and we're just kind of in a growth. We're building to catch up.
Right.
So that I can get back on the phones as much as I used to. But when you first start, you don't have anything else to do, so you have no excuse. You need to be on the phones for, about 150 to 200 calls a day is reasonable. And I was unsure about this, but after I started leaving voicemails, man, I think they really pay off, because I think your biggest nemesis in this is not that they are getting too many calls from you and they're annoyed. It's that they don't know who the hell you are.
Right.
And
so what does a voicemail sound like? My
voicemail is always the same, and I use this because it's true. I have been calling for years, so I say, my name's Chris Zender, this is at the Woodich Company. I've been calling you for years now, so that's the first thing I say. So they know I have been calling them for years. I'm not just the new guy on the block, which when you are, you got to come up with something different. But this is kind of what I've morphed it into. And then I go into my selling pitch, which is that we do construction insurance only and that we're experts in it. And I'm not pushy. I say, I know you know, I don't have any reason to believe they're unhappy with the current broker or the current program, but this is what we have, blah, blah, blah.
So you need to know what your company does really well, because that's part of that quick pitch. Especially if you're leaving a voicemail, you need to be able to get across that your company does this one thing better than anyone else.
Yeah,
right?
So you're gonna sell you're gonna kind of give them a little teaser of something that you can do, something that's different or unique that might catch their attention. And, you know, maybe 1 in 10 phone calls or voicemails gets heard and returned. Mm-hmm. That's a lofty expectation. I don't expect anybody to return my voicemails. Sometimes they do. My biggest account, they returned my 3 voicemails. I left him over the course of a few weeks. Okay. And they called me back, and he's like, yeah, I have issues.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be my biggest account.
So when you get that call back after leaving voicemail after voicemail, and sometimes you may have to leave like 20, 30 voicemails in order to just get that one call back. But you don't
want to bombard them, though. That's
I don't mean 20 per, like,
20, 30 over the years, yeah.
I mean, like, 20
20,
voicemails
30.
and then one. No.
Don't leave anybody 20 or 30 voicemails.
No, I learned that in the span of, with an ex-boyfriend.
Oh, well, that's completely different.
But
crazy. I'm just kidding.
No, okay, so when you leave the 20 or 30 voicemails for different clients and you get that one call back,
you should be leaving like 100 a day, maybe. 100, because if you're making 200 calls, then it's realistic to think that you might get 100 voicemails, because some people, they won't transfer you to voicemail, or they say they don't have a voicemail, which is complete BS. I know you do. I know you have a voicemail, but they know what I'm doing. They know what I'm up to.
That's hilarious. Okay, well, when that person calls you back and you finally get them on the phone, you're looking for, hypothetically, you are looking for some information, right?
Yeah, so you want to quickly figure out why they called you back, because sometimes they're just calling you back to say they're happy with what they have now and that they're not going to be a fit. Some people have done that before. But you want to figure out what's going on with their current situation, and it doesn't hurt to ask like very simple questions, very obvious questions. I think people tiptoe around them, but like, are you looking for a new broker?
Yeah.
You know, it's a good place to start. You know, what's happening? Do you like your broker? Are you happy with your broker? Are you paying too much? What's the problem? What are some problems you have? Because they called you back for a reason. They're not, or if you called the wrong person, they're just calling you back because they don't have anything better to do than you need to call somebody else. Right.
So you need to get the name and the title of the person who actually does the purchasing of your product.
Yes, and sometimes they're gonna try to put you to like a purchasing department. I always call and ask, or sometimes I call and ask. I can look up the names online via a few different resources, but I might call and ask for a bigger company, because in a big company there might be a different department that handles what I sell, insurance. But if it's a mid-sized contractor, I know that I could just 9 times out of 10 I'm going to call the CEO directly.
Okay.
And because it's such a big expense that they're going to handle it. If I get a hold of the CEO and he says, you know, if you do it right, he's going to tell you, no, I don't handle it. It's this person, and you can call them.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have given them a good enough pitch to be able to, and they're going to be sympathetic or empathetic to you because you've been calling for 3 years, like I have, right? I've been calling you for years. And you're like, oh, you've been calling the wrong guy for years, so let me tell you who to call.
Oh my gosh. Is that what's in store for you today?
Oh,
that conversation.
I hope so.
Times 10.
I hope I get that.
One thing that was really successful, or that really helped Bill become successful, is he became best friends with that gatekeeper. Yeah. Do you do that too?
Yeah, and I
Lay
always
on the charm a little bit.
I mean, I'm not trying to coat it on like a freaking frosting. But
yeah.
I'm not cheesy at all. I sell to them like I sell to the CEO.
Okay.
So I say the exact same pitch. You know, I've been calling you guys for years, and I try to have a good, enthusiastic, you know, I'll make a joke, as you know, depending on the tone of the person on the other end. Sometimes you get people that are just hate their life and they don't want to be there, and those are the ones you kind of gotta
quickly get through.
You try to get through them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just can't get to their level for some reason. I can't get through to those people, but Some,
I can't help you with that.
No, I've tried, but they just, they're just there to do a task, and they're going to like block the call or whatever.
Gotcha.
Which is fine. I'll just try to find a different way to get in. Mm-hmm. But sometimes if they send you directly a voicemail, it's something I learned, you can start pushing like star or hashtag, and
hashtag,
is that what it's called?
Pound sign?
Yeah.
Oh my
Sorry,
gosh.
I've been blowing up Instagram these days.
I saw.
Got like
yeah,
100 followers now.
That's crazy. It's because of the show, right?
I don't think so.
Probably
They're
not.
all friends of mine, but whatever. But I'll try to find them through different resources or different ways. But if you start pushing the buttons when you're in their voicemail, sometimes it'll redivert you to like the automated answering service, and then you can press a button for a directory, and then you put the name in, and then it sends you directly to them, and they answer the phone because they don't suspect that they're gonna let somebody like me in.
Right.
So I do that all the time. Every time I get sent direct to voicemail, I push pound and star, one or the other, and then I document what happened in my Salesforce.
Okay, well, here's a great takeaway for the day. If you're in sales and you're doing cold calling and somebody directs you to a voicemail, hit star, hit pound, see what happens.
Start hitting buttons.
You might actually get through to the person.
Yeah, because they've been blocking all other sales guys, so you're going to be the one guy that gets through. That's sales guys and girls.
How did you come up with that?
Oh, I guess when you make 20,000 phone calls, you get bored and start doing weird stuff. Or you get so pissed off that you start mashing the phone and then something happens.
Been there. So, okay, we've left 100 voicemails. We've received phone calls back from a few people. You've gotten the information that you need. They're actually showing.
Don't expect to receive phone calls back.
That's
my thing. You're not going to receive
I'm just getting to the next step.
You might, 1 in a million. Let's say that.
So that 1 in a million.
Good statistics right there.
Well, I heard that 95% of statistics.
It was 83% at the last I heard. But
the last you made up?
Yeah.
Okay, hypothetically speaking.
Let's say you get a hold of somebody. Is that better?
Yeah, you get a hold of someone, and they're showing interest in what you're selling, and for you, it's insurance.
Yeah.
As we have well established. What do you do? Do you send them more information?
No, I never do that. When somebody says send me information, that's just like get out of here. Yeah. So I'll do it, but then I know that that's not going to lead to any results, but I'll do it because I said I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Man of integrity, right?
Yeah, you got to do it because you said you're going to do it, even if it's just some crappy brochure. But so the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what, why are you looking? If you've got interest, then you need to divert the conversation to figure out what's going on and what they're looking for.
What their pain point is.
Yeah. Okay. So and you can ask the questions up front. Are you willing to switch your provider this year? Like, are you open to? Because some people aren't willing to do it, but they'll entertain a bid.
Yeah.
Or a bid because they want to make sure their broker's competitive. So I just ask the toughest questions up front, like, how long have you been with your broker, and are you willing to switch this year if we did something awesome for you? Or I just make it so plain and simple, and I give them the freedom to get out of it.
Yeah.
That's the key. I always give them the freedom to get out if they want to. I say, look, if you don't want to do this, it's fine. Just let me know.
Authenticity.
You might think that's weird, but for me, it's not. Some industries, it probably makes sense to push. But in mine, it does not, because we waste 3 months working on something. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get because there's a limited amount of carriers, and only one broker can approach them. So if we don't get a fair chance to fight it out, it's not worth wasting the time on. And some people try to push for a meeting right up front. Mm-hmm.
You build that that relationship.
I start figuring out where the interest is, if there's interest, and then I start poking at the pain points, and then I kind of figure out what they're willing to do, and then if it uncover it, and I figure out it's going to be a good opportunity, I say, are you willing? Do you want to meet and talk about it more in person? We can go to lunch, so that way I'm not wasting time during business hours. So that's
you drove to Yuma, right?
I did. I drove to pretty much outside of Yuma, Imperial, California.
And how far?
On a whim.
And that's 3 hours away?
4 hours each way.
That's dedication right there.
Got up at 4 in the morning and started driving out. the funny thing about that story is I thought it was going to be a small account because it's out in the middle of, I mean, it's not out in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of, I mean, there's a big city out there, or a big town, but it's far, and I didn't, you know, we pull up these leads on our lead generation on Hoovers, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're out of date, but this one didn't seem, I mean, they called me back on a cell, actually they called me because I mailed them something.
Okay.
So that was my first thing. I was like, they're calling me and I mailed them something, like, this probably is not a good opportunity. Because if you're a good contractor, then you're going to be called on 10 times a day.
Right.
You're not going to call somebody back from a mailing piece. You're just, and again, I'm doing this because I want to build up the amount of like exposures that I have, so that when my name comes across, I'll be like, oh, this is the guy that's been sending me those stupid folders for 3 years and been leaving me voicemails for 3 years, and he's persistent. But so
it's not about like the immediate closure. It's just about familiarity.
I'm not sending that stuff because I expect them to get back to me. I'm sending that so that when I call them, I'm a firm believer that the only way I'm going to get an appointment is by calling them and talking through the issues, because I'm a person.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot harder to say no to a person that's giving you reasonable ideas and is a, you know, empathetic, emotional person just like you. And they're nice and funny and, okay, yeah, you know, this guy's low pressure, it's cool. And then you slowly build your way up until they're like, yeah, my broker sucks. He's not doing all this stuff for me.
So then, spoiler for that story in Yuma, they ended up being a really good account.
Yeah, you spoiled my story, though.
I didn't know if you were going to go back to it.
I wasn't. I was on to other things, but no, they turned out to be like the best, you know, like a really good account. I called up to confirm that they were going to be in the day before, because the meeting was set for like 2 p.m, so that means I'd be home at like 9 o'clock at night. But with traffic in Southern California, it's terrible.
Yeah. True.
And I called the day of, and I called, Susan was the person that called me. She's like the administrative, I guess she's like the controller there, and so she handles all the finances and stuff. And so I called to confirm, and they said she was probably not coming in today. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go. And then I got a call like 30 minutes before the appointment, and it was her. And she said, are you still coming in? And I said, no, I called to make sure. This is probably not a good sales story at all, because it's like the worst thing you're supposed to do. But I said, like, this is just how much I don't believe in just going to random meetings because you get a meeting. You got to qualify before you drive out and waste your gas and time. And so she's like, no, you know, we really want you to come in. And I was like, well, is the owner going to be there? Because in my world, I need the owner. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, he's going to be here. He's the one that got me to call you. And I was like, okay, well, then I'll come in. Went in, drove all the way.
The next day?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll be there tomorrow. I'm like, all right, fine. And I didn't get any information about premium size or volume or anything. It could have been a small account that wouldn't have been a good fit for us. And go out there, and it turns out to be like the best possible meeting I could ever have. We saved him like $250,000.
Oh, that's awesome.
And because it was like the best opportunity, it was the smoothest, easiest, smoothest way to win an account for me. And they were a big account. And it was just like, huh, all right.
But that happened because you qualified the meeting before you just took it, right?
No, it would have happened if I went directly to the meeting. But what could happen if I don't qualify a meeting is that you drive out there and they say, oh yeah, we're this size, and you're like, oh, what a waste of time.
Oh, gotcha.
So in this, Bill's calling. Should we answer that?
No.
Okay.
I can call him back.
So in this case, it paid off, but most of the time it's not going to pay off to just take a random meeting. You got to figure out if this is going to be a good fit, if they're of the size, and you know, if it makes sense and their operations fit with whatever you're selling. So before you just don't go setting up random meetings, because a seasoned CEO is going to see, he's used to getting calls. He's going to know when somebody's just setting a meeting to set a meeting for shits and giggles.
Right.
You know?
Well,
and that's the sign of like a new person at any sales job. And that's just a waste of time. Yeah, and that's just a waste of time, and they don't want to take that.
He or she who cares least controls most. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. It's harsh, but it's true. So just to recap a little bit about your process, I know you're busy right now, but on average you would make like 150, 200 calls a day?
Not anymore. My goal is to make 100 calls a day. And the reason for that is that voicemails take up extra time.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth it to leave the voicemail each time.
Okay. So you leave about 100 voicemails a day.
No, I leave about 50 voicemails a day. 100 calls can generate 50 voicemails because...
Oh, I had that backwards. Sorry.
Yeah, because for whatever reason you don't get through to their voicemail. Maybe they're blocking you. Maybe they say they don't have a voicemail. These are all just lies.
Hit pound, hit star, try to get
Do what
through
you can.
anyways.
Yeah.
Continue sending information through the mail, not necessarily to...
Don't bombard them, though.
Don't bombard them, but make sure that they're familiar with your name and your company. Because that way, when you do call them for, the fifth time in a couple months, they know who you are, and they're more prepared to have a conversation with you because your name and your company is familiar.
Oh, here's another thing. If you're selling, if your product is expensive enough to have a person selling it, then you got to make all your correspondence appear like it's personally sent to the person you are sending it to. I hate when I get solicited to by different insurance companies and programs. I hate when it's just a standardized email that they send 500 out to.
Yeah.
I don't read it.
You delete it?
I delete it. And I say unsubscribe because don't send me this standardized BS.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to me, don't send me stuff on small church deals because I don't write those accounts. Mm-hmm. Send me what I write. You should know this.
So research and personalize.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
If you send somebody some shotgunned, that might work for some people because you get 0.5%, but you send out so many damn emails that you get enough people. You just got to figure out what works for yourself and the amount of time you can spend on something. But if you're selling something that's expensive and that's a big part of the business expense, then personalize it or make it seem personalized. That's what I do.
Hey, a lot of good takeaways for how you
This was very practical today.
I like it, though.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else since I defer to you on this stuff.
I would say just you gotta put in the activity, you gotta put in the calls, track it. Track your calls because your 30 calls is going to seem like 100 calls. Mm-hmm. I guarantee it. Sometimes I look at my numbers for the day and I'm like, oh, man, I thought I made so many more calls. Or I'll look, I was telling people, man, I'm going to the gym 6 days a week. I am now. But my LA Fitness thing has an app and it shows you how many days you actually go. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, incorrect. It just seemed like a lot more. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
So track it because everything seems like a lot more work than you actually did.
So you need that realistic number.
Yeah, now I can go in and be like, dude, I've only made 40 calls. Mm-hmm. I know it. And then it's like 35. And I'm like, damn it.
Chris,
but it always seems like
it's
more.
Always a pleasure to do Millennials and Money with you.
Man, it gets me
Monday.
started. Just
the
engine's roaring.
There you
First
go.
thing Monday morning.
Well, we will see you next week where we're going to talk about...
What are we going to talk about?
Money.
Let's make it some money.
I'm just kidding. What do you want to make it about?
I don't know. I wish I had some ideas about how to help millennials.
We're going to pull it out of the mystery box next week.
Cool.
So don't miss it.
Very good. All right.